problems as they integrate into Canvas and the technologies that faculty members use. And I also meet one-on-one with faculty members, or we host Canvas Q&As on a monthly basis. Myself, Mike, and Katie, the student worker I'm speaking about, host those monthly. So that's a little bit about myself.
Yeah. So, and we're both been thinking and planning this for a number of months now, actually. And so finally, the day is here, and we're excited to get started. And I hope you are too. We were quite overwhelmed by the number of interests in this faculty and learning community, and we wanted to kind of make sure that those who are committing, first have the time to do so, because I know everybody is busy, and making sure that everybody, gets, they're going to commit to it so that it's going to be a useful and productive time for everyone who is involved. And so that's why we had the application process. So thank you for showing interest, and thank you for submitting an application. And we're really excited to have you here. So let's kind of just dive right in and kind of get, I want to sort of first talk about some of the basics of our faculty and learning community, and then we can then get into the content for the day. So for those who are maybe not familiar with the idea of a faculty and learning community, this is really the best kind of format that studies have shown to really, okay, so there are a couple components of faculty learning community. One is that it's cohort based. This is what we're trying to do. We have a cohort about 21 faculty in this particular faculty learning community. It's also cross-disciplinary, meaning it's not just faculty from one school or one department, but it's across different schools and different disciplines. And they meet regularly. We're meeting every other week for 5 sessions. So today, and then 2 weeks from now, and then 2 weeks after that, and so on. And then the hope is that the meeting together, the interactions, the learning that will happen, it will kind of spill over into enhancing your teaching effectiveness, in improving student learning and overall sort of academic culture. And there's been many studies that have been shown that FLCs have that kind of impact. So if you want to learn more, there are tons of literature about that. But Milton Cox is the sort of the person who coined this concept, and he's written a lot about it. And so you can look up that if you want. Just some basics about our group, our cohort. So you can see here the breakdown in terms of who is from what school, and you can see it's a fairly, we have five schools, 5 of the 7 schools represented in this cohort, which is very cross-disciplinary. In terms of those who taught here at APU, like you can see, more than half of you have taught here at least 5 or 6 years or more, which is a great sign of the veteran status of this group. And then you can also see there's some new folks, which is also good, because it's always good to kind of have new perspective. And you can see overall, most people have taught in higher education for a long time. In terms of rank and status, you can also see a very good diversity. Folks who are full professor all the way down to sort of adjuncts, and there's actually I don't know what the other. I have to go look at what maybe it doesn't fall into a professor rank. Maybe it's a lecturer rank or instructor rank, but you can see that. This particular graphic here is something I maybe want to just pause a little bit. And we asked all of you a series of questions and have you rate yourself in terms of how much agreement you have. The first one, you can see is sort of basic understanding. For the most part, I'd say more than half of you have some basic understanding. And then also the question about the potential benefit. Obviously, you probably wouldn't have signed up if you didn't see the benefit. And then number 3, the third one there is about comfort in using AI tools. That's where we have probably a little more than half not fully comfortable, but we're hoping that this FLC will change that perspective. We'll try to do another survey at the end and see if it changes a little bit. And then the next number, the 5th one, is about confidence in integrating AI tools in teaching. I think there's a lot of interest in that. And then let me see if I can get the my little pointer. Maybe that will help. Where's my little spotlight? Okay, there it is. Oops. Are you able to see my little spotter? Okay, so here, the confidence in the AI resources. So how to find those. So this is something that we are hoping to do in our FLC, is just to give folks, all of you, just lots and lots of resources and places to go so that you can continue to on your own journey going forward. And then let's see, understanding challenges. Yeah, we're also going to highlight some of the challenges that you'll face implementing AI in your classes, and then actively following trends and so on. So those are kind of some of the highlights from our information. Hopefully that kind of gives you some appreciation of what we're doing. Here's a quick schedule of what we'll be doing in the next 5 sessions. Today will be really a grounding of foundational things. We'll talk about, the sort of the theology of technology. Some of you have heard me give this talk, or if I've done it, a session with your school or your program, about sort of really thinking deeply about the connection between faith and AI, because I think that is our distinctive here at APU in terms of our approach to everything, including the use of technology. We're also going to give you some basic overview of the different tools and different models. We'll probably start talking about models beyond the ChatGPT, which is what most people are familiar with. And then the really, I think, the exciting part about today is the prompt engineering. Now, this is something that is, I think, a critical skill that all folks will need to have going forward, both teachers and students, because I think how much you get out of the AI will depend on how well your prompt engineering skills are going to be. And then we'll also talk about some citation, and we have lots of practical activities for each of you to do during the session, and then lots of time for conversation. So lots of intro, but here are the sort of the questions we'll try to answer today. We encourage you to use the chat function. If you have comments or questions as we're presenting, just add that there. We'll have these moments throughout our time together where we'll have some Q&A, make sure we cover some of the questions, and make sure that if there's any confusion about anything we're sharing, that we'll take time to share that and clarify that. So please use the comment to the chat for that. And then Tim and I will kind of go between us in terms of flip-flopping who's presenting and who's talking, and then hopefully through this process, we both will give you different perspectives on how we think about these issues. So in terms of how should Christian educators approach AI or any new technology for that matter? So I would say when we think about technology as Christian educators, there are 2 fundamental questions. Now, one is, what does it mean to be human, in particular for this case of AI, and what does it mean what is technology and what's the use of that? So the Bible doesn't explicitly, address technology or have like the word technology. I mean, some newer translation there might be, but there are, I think, lots of wisdom that the Bible can provide in terms of how we can approach these topics. And in particular, today we can talk about sort of AI. So I would say starting with the question of what does it mean to be human is important, because AI is the beginning. Artificial intelligence is the beginning of this point in our history, where the computer is starting to emulate some of the human characteristics. In this particular case, intelligence. And intelligence, the simplest kind of definition I can find was the ability to solve problems. An intelligent being can solve problems. And now we have computers who's able to really solve problems a lot more quickly, a lot more efficiently, just more effectively than humans on many, many levels. Everything from playing chess to, aggregating, hundreds, if not thousands, data points and find patterns and things like that humans are not just capable of doing. And so starting with the question of what does it mean to be human is important, because it then grounds us in understanding, okay, how has God made us and how are we different than the machines and the computers and the artificial intelligence that's in that we're working with. So we understand that we're created by in the image of God. That is unique. AI is not created in the image of God. Our laptops are not created in the image of God. No, it's only human. So that's very unique, and we need to remember that. We're also created for good work, meaning there are things that God has created for us to, an infusion, 2:15 talks about that. We are his workmanship and are created for good works, beforehand. So that we were not just put on earth just to exist, but to actually do his will, to do his work. More than that, in particular, we're called to love God, love our neighbor. Those are sort of the two most important commandments. And then there's also this thing called sin and rebellion. Humans are uniquely suited for that because we have that kind of part of our history, and so our rebellion towards God is very, very. It's always going to be there. And one of the things that has happened, I think, over the course of history is that whenever we create things, including technology, we can use that to sin or rebel against God. And this is where my third bullet on under what is technology is that we can turn something we create like AI into idols. And if you've been following the news, and there's a lot of talks about sentience, which is a consciousness about this new technology. Like, is the computer actually thinking and feeling and like a human being? And this is where those who don't have a God per se, they are now turning to AI as their new God, because I actually heard a podcast recently. Someone was talking about how it was actually Mark Labberton's podcast called Conversing. Mark Labberton's the former president of Fuller Seminary, and he was interviewing, I forget his guest, but this guy basically was saying, this is our new God. We can get answers from it. I was like just startled by how convinced he was that this new technology can answer and solve all of humanity's problems. So this is just obviously, for us as Christian educators, we need to kind of be aware of these issues, but at the same time, we need to be kind of open to interacting and conversing with others about this. So in terms of sort of what's the practical takeaway for how Christian education approached AI, I think we can embrace the technology because God has given us the capability and the knowledge and expertise to create such a thing. And so in that way, it's a gift from God. And then we need to use it critically and ethically so that we can reap its benefit, and we can use it to glorify God and to love neighbor. And ultimately, we should not use it to make it into an idol. One of the verses that I showed in last verse is about this place in, I think it was in Genesis 12 or something, where it talks about this metal worker creating something with his hand, and then in the very end, he ends up bowing down and worshiping it. And it's that kind of temptation that always exists when it comes to the sort of the new technologies, especially this. So here are some questions. We're not going to have time to really address them, but just again, this is really the foundational kind of faith integration piece I want us to get into. So in terms of the actual AI tools and their key features, so I will maybe get started on the two slides, and I'll invite Tim to take over. So when we talk about generative artificial intelligence, generative AI, it actually entails many types of tools. Here you see there are kind of the four categories. The top left here are the text and the voice. These are the ones that are mostly talked about in when you read the newspaper or you listen to news or watch documentaries about it. This is sort of the area, and ChatGPT is the number one AI tool that people have been talking about. But there's also within this category, there's Google has their own, Microsoft has their own. There's just lots and lots of companies have their own text based kind of AI tools. But beyond text, there are also things like audio and their video, and we're actually going to explore some of those during our time together. So this is something that's less popular, but they're just as quote unquote powerful in terms of its ability to do things and to help us sort of as educators. And then there's images and visuals. We will definitely explore these. Tim has been doing a lot of exploration about these different tools and how you can basically write a simple prompt and then generate images based on that. And then finally, the codes, the computer coding. We don't really have anybody from computer science, I don't believe, in this cohort, but if you know colleagues, I mean, this is definitely a tool that has disrupted computer science and computer engineering fields like completely. The way you teach coding and the way the actual world of computer science has been disrupted in so many. These tools now can not only write codes, but it can troubleshoot code. So you don't necessarily even need to know how to code to actually code, which is the new world that we're entering. In terms of the different models, these are kind of the models we will explore, and there will be a lot more that I think we'll touch on that's not on this list. The ChatGPT 3.5 is the most common. It's the free one that the company OpenAI offers. They have a version 4.0, version 4, which costs $20, and there's a little more things you can do with it, and we'll talk about maybe whether it's worth the investment or worth paying the $20 a month or not later. But the Claude 2 is also another tool we'll explore quite a bit, because this is a free tool like the GPT 3.5, but Claude 2 is actually, I would say, the more academic version, if you will. It does a lot better when it comes to academic education type of prompts, and I've used it. Actually, I use Claude 2 a lot more than I use ChatGPT the 3.5, because it really does work better, and it also allows you for uploading documents and images, and we'll talk about how those kind of features actually can really expand what we do as educators. And then the DALL-E 2 and Stable Diffusion and Midjourney, these you can see are text to image type tools, and we'll always introduce the free tool, but we also want to make sure that you know about the paid version, so that if you really want to go all in, it's probably worth paying that 1 or 2 months to really get to see what the sort of the better tools, the advanced features will give you. And then finally, the last two are things like text to speech and the AI audio, the video editing. So, Tim, do you want to say anything about these models before I move on?
Yeah, so I have tried a few of these different chat bots as well as image generators, and I even have paid for both me and Mike have paid for subscriptions after we've experimented with them a little bit. I just to get a little bit more out of it, to dive deeper. One of the tools that I paid for was an image generator that allowed me to go past the 15 credits a day or something to that effect that I was allowed to use, or a month. And even that choice allowed me to really dive deep and do a lot of research about that particular tool once I had tried a few of them. So if that is something that I encourage you guys to do with some of these tools, but a lot of these tools have free options, 100 to or 100 prompts a day, or the ability to at least try it out, especially with your APU Gmail account. Some things don't work with our workspace account. I think like Google Bard is one of the things that we don't have turned on with our .apu.edu. So some things I've signed up with my personal emails, but most things I can click on the Google sign up and authenticate with my apu.edu password and my Gmail account. And that's an easy way to just kind of sign up for things and know that, okay, I've signed up with my work account, and I'll have an account. Even with the examples that we're showing today, if you're trying them in ChatGPT, authenticating and signing into account is a good idea to save that history and to be able to go back and look up what you've prompted the AI bots in the past.
So All right. So how do these AI bots? So we'll start with AI bots. So how do they work, Tim?
So AI bots work based on models. There's a few different models, and they go by acronyms. There's like LMP models. I don't know if right now I can tell you exactly what the all the um, different acronyms stand for, but in general, chatbots are open AI and companies like Google. Another company is NVIDIA, which NVIDIA produces a lot of the graphics cards in PCs and Macs. And they, as well as just, startups and users of the internet who were trying to find something on the next level. We've often referred to AI as kind of the next iPhone of technology. It is game changing. It will change how we use our computers, our iPhones, our Android phones, and everything above. But generally, these models are based on these uh, kind of algorithms that people have created, and then they've created a UI to be able for users like us to sign into our accounts and use them. And then from these models, most of them have a search box or an area for you to upload something to, or an area for you to prompt it. And as the slide says here, with chat box especially kind of function like a Q&A uh, back and forth, a question and answer. One thing I've used often is in Google. I have Google Labs turned on, and Google has a generative AI search function. And there's sometimes when the immediate Google result isn't giving exactly what I want. Maybe there's a lot of shopping results. Maybe it's not showing exactly what I want. And I'll push this generate. I'll show this on screen in a little bit, but I'll push the generate button, and all of a sudden, prompt stuff will start generating itself that I'm not usually seeing in my normal kind of day-to-day internet searching, or even kind of the suggested information that my phone and my computer often show me. AI dives deeper and looks at a wider span than what the cookies and the browser history that my computer and my phone often save for me. Mike showing a prompt about from ChatGPT here, and I've here I'll go ahead and share my screen and show you something I've prompted.
Yeah, so I've been answering some of the questions in the prompt in the chat about sort of license. So currently AP doesn't have any license to these tools. You have to sign up, like Tim says, either with your AP Google, or sometimes you have to use your own personal sort of account to do this. So Tim, yeah. And then
Sorry,
yeah,
I'm back.
were you going to share your slide, you said? Or
yeah, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay. All right, can you guys see my screen now?
yep.
All right, so this is, Mike had a slide of ChatGPT rolling some code, and this is my ChatGPT account that I started from the beginning. I've used it for a few different reasons.
Can you expand, make the screen a little bit bigger, like so that it shows a little more, because it's a little small still. So maybe a command plus or something. There you go, much better. Thank you.
All right, so like I was saying, on the left-hand side, I have some history here. You can even see the history is by month, going back, things that I've been interested in, things I've prompted in, and what I'll end some of my examples with is even creating my own prompts through ChatGPT to then prompt other image generators or other AI tools. So with this prompt, I started, my son, I have a 7-year-old, he's into playing video games, and he plays a game called Roblox, and it's kind of the evolution of Minecraft. It is an online game that they can go on and play all types of games, everything from capture the flag, tag, it's really the options are limitless because the users can create their own game rooms and do their own coding. So I asked here, let me see if I can refresh this. I asked ChatGPT to give me some examples of Roblox code. And I started pretty simple. I didn't, I said a full sentence there, give me some examples of Roblox code, but I started with just the main two ingredients here, Roblox code. And ChatGPT gave me a beginner's guide on how to do some basic coding. It didn't say that it had access to specific Roblox codes created by an individual developer, but it would be willing to give me an example on how to create some Roblox code. What this code does is create a basic kind of grid based on these parameters, based on these coding to start a world. It says that this code creates a part in the game world with a size of 2 by 2 by 2, a red color and an anchor, which is anchored to the ground, and then it's added to the workspace so it appears in the game. So if you've ever used an app that teaches you basic coding, there's a few apps. Swift is one app that will kind of gamify coding for you, where you can learn the language, put the pieces of the equation together, create local parts, local sizes, positions, anchor points, whatever the language is. When I've used Swift before, Swift will literally allow you to, it'll give you the basics of a mobile gaming code, and then allows you to start manipulating that code. And you can see the Swift game slowly change and change as you manipulate the code. Maybe you add a jump for the character to do in the code, or you add an icon for them to jump and receive a star out of, or something to that effect. So once and granted, this language is complex. I understand HTML, I understand some basic coding language. And so for me, as a more advanced user, this little box makes sense for me. I probably, if I did a few more Google searches, I would know where to copy this code, paste it into Roblox, and begin using it. Granted, that's not where all users are at, and but I can also start to ask and get some more information from ChatGPT. So I asked it another question. And when I did ask it this other question, it's taking into account the initial question I asked and then the initial response I received. So I asked it to create an open world in Roblox, maybe a canvas or a blank shell for me to move forward with. So I worked with that and got some more results. You can see now the code spits out a lot more information. So here, let me move over to an example of that. And also I'll pull up the slide here. I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So Mike, if you want to go ahead and come back in and.
Oh, okay. You can just share your screen and then maybe for now then. So I think what Tim was trying to show you is that it's sort of, there's a lot of these capabilities that these tools can do. And, I think Tim was kind of, he's a lot more advanced user than I am. So he uses actually the coding in ways that I haven't really explored. But if you want to kind of get more into that, we'll have a chance for everyone to practice. But so we're going to keep moving forward and talk about sort of this next set of tools. So the text to image. So what we've been talking up to this point with the ChatGPT is sort of really text to text, meaning it's like a Q&A. Like if you ever text anybody on your phone, how that would work. But there's also this text to image where you can write something in a prompt form. In this case, as you can see, example, I just said, imagine a butterfly on an elephant overlooking the city, something that you wouldn't normally or realistically see in person. But I just did that, and you can see it generated a couple of images. This is from the tool Dolly. I mean, there are more sophisticated tools that probably could get a better image than that, but this is another type of tool where you just literally write what you want and it will generate the image for you. So you can keep moving to the next slide, Tim. So these are kind of just some tools, questions for us to reflect on. So maybe at this point, let's just stop for a moment. I know there's been a couple of prompts in the chat. We want to, and then I earlier saw, I think that Jude had a hand up. So before we go too far ahead, we'll take a few minutes here and just stop and see if we can address some of the questions and comments you may have. So, and so Jude, I don't know if you
Yeah, hi. I apologize. My internet keep disconnected, so I had to log in by phone and then back here. The question was answered. I was gonna ask if we're gonna get the slides because I wasn't sure, what notes to take. It's a lot of information, and then you answered that you will share that.
Yes.
How about the recording? Will that be shared also,
Yeah.
or just okay? Wonderful.
Yeah. So yes, we have this being recorded. We actually have a Google site where put together. We'll share that out with every content that we share in this session. You will have access to our slides. We have a handout. We'll have a site. So everything will be available to all of you so that you don't have to. Yeah, I think during these sessions, it will feel, maybe I should have given you this warning. It will feel like you're drinking from a fire hose, like many of these sessions will, because there's just so much content and you will feel overwhelmed often, and it's okay. But in our time together, what we're trying to do, Tim and I, is really trying to expose you. There's actually I've been reading about this summer about what they call brain soaking. It's actually a learning theory. It's applied to learning languages, foreign languages, but I think it applies to learning anything new or anything difficult. And what brain soaking theory is that you just allow your brain to get bombarded with this new concept idea to a point where like you just feel like, oh, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to think. But the brain is amazing in terms of its ability to continually process even after the session. So maybe during the session, you may feel like overwhelmed, but maybe a day later, 2 days later, it's like, oh, I get it now. And then that's how often the brain works is, you get bombarded, you're soaking your brain into all this information, and somehow the brain will straighten it out over time. And especially, when applied to foreign language, I'm trying to learn the foreign language, and I'm listening to it. I don't understand it. I'm listening to music. I'm trying to just expose myself as much as I can, and over time, it just sort of starts to click. So that's part of the learning theory we're applying here. All right, so if you can see, and then yes. Can you go ahead and unmute?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so for the text to image, like I've seen an article on guardian angels, and it formulates a picture of a guardian angel, and I post that on the internet, like for instance, because I have a column for Patheos. Is there a copyright issue with related to chat or whatever this is, the text to image one that I will need to do, or some sort of copyright issue? Can I just go ahead and put that on the internet, or are there some procedures related to that are related to legal issues?
Yeah, so BJ, you bring up a good point. So we actually will get into that in the next couple of slides, talking about sort of citation, attribution, sort of the copyrights issues. So yes, we're definitely going to address that. But maybe any other questions about what we've covered up to this point about just sort of the different tools available and basically how they work before we move into talking about the sort of let me see here, where am I? The prompt. The prompts. So yeah, maybe go ahead and advance the slide, Tim, and then we'll talk a little bit more about prompts, and then one more.
Yeah, so as I was getting a little technical with my coding discussion, I was trying to transition to kind of what an equation looked like to how do you write effective prompts. Prompt engineering is a way. It can be as simple as the two words of what you want the image generator or the chat bot to output. It could be Roblox code, or it could be a picture of my dog. But as it's also an art. It's this image to the left of the description here is prompted was 3 words: programming on a laptop. So we have a laptop with a blurred background with some code language on it. But really, prompting is the art of writing better instructions. So the AI tool will be more responsive and even more detailed. Really, it's about detail, context, and what you're asking it. So we tried to break down prompt generating into kind of 3 categories, and we're going to use these color codes throughout our prompt generating. So the first category is the role. What do we want AI to assume? Let's be explicit about that role. Is it the video game? Is it a picture of my dog? Is it an image example for my course? Is it the ability to create the critique for a paper or something like that? And then we move on to context. So initially that role might be those first 2 words, programming and laptop. And as we add more context, as we provide context to the AI, maybe where we want that laptop to be sitting on a desk, what we want the background to be showing. And from there, it's kind of putting those together. If we add the role and the context to our question, we'll start to create a prompt. So our first question, kind of a basic or okay prompt is, how can I improve my overall health? And we could ask that to maybe the chatbot or the and have it maybe the Google kind of this Google type question. But a better prompt would be to bring some role into context into that original question. So my original context is, how can I exercise? How can I improve my overall health? And I'm going to add some context and role here. You're an exercise instructor. I want to improve my core health. What exercise can I do at home? And all of a sudden now I have a list of core exercises I can do on my core, rather than maybe a general description of how I could eat better or run more or get into a walking routine.
Yeah,
so that was kind of, go ahead.
Oh, so if you go back one slide, Tim. So this is a formula, a recipe that, I mean, there are many types of AI prompt recipes out there, and we really try to simplify as much as we can. And this is sort of, I mean, there are going, you can obviously go out and find more sophisticated recipes, but we will try in our session today and maybe in the future to kind of keep it to these 3 basic components so that you can start practicing. As you get better at it, then you can add more to it. So just, I just want to make that point, is that, these are kind of, we're trying to keep into 3 blocks so that you can now, like, we'll have some time at the end, you can just use these basic blocks and then build it out yourself. So that's for AI writing. So this next one is for AI text to image. And it's sort of, again, we try to keep into those 3 blocks, the descriptive adjective, the subject, and then the additional descriptor. The basic first part is describe what is the background image, and then the subject is what you want the actual subject of your image, and then the additional information. So you can maybe go 1 to the right. So yeah, this is an example I think Tim created. He originally, so there, it's an okay prompt if you say the golden retriever dog jump for his balls. I mean, it will get something for you, but a better prompt would be something a lot more descriptive. The descriptive adjective is the golden retriever, and the sort of the additional is soaking after running out of the river, and then the jumps for his favorite chew towel. So that's really like what you want that central part of the image looks like, and this is what you get on the left, which I thought was like Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, you can see the image on the left, that clip drop, one of the apps that we've included in our syllabus and on the website is available. And that this is a clip drop is free. You can do 100 images or prompts a day. It has a lot of cool image editing tools. And but also, if I kept entering this prompt, the golden retriever soaking after running out of the river, jumps for his favorite chew toy, I'm not going to get the same image. There is going to be some slight differences if I keep entering this same prompt. It's not as Google-fied as we're used to. It doesn't just kind of give us the same image results or the same list of links. Image generators and chat generators will give you different results as you enter. But that's what these why we're trying to talk about okay and better. The more descriptive we are, some of the better images we can get, and we can get closer to what we're trying to look for, and then use in our presentation slides or use on our course, what have you. So one prompt that I've explored, and I even one way I challenged myself when I first I wanted to take a deep dive with image generation. And I challenged myself to both learn how to use it, but also maybe even post something. So I created an Instagram account about baseball and fatherhood as an experiment, and started posting images that I had generated with either Dolly or Midjourney, which are two. Clip Drop is another one of them that you can use. All of these are using a model called Stable Diffusion. Again, those kind of these models that are algorithms that we're then prompting to spit out either text or images. So Stable Diffusion is the image generating model that is used within ClipDrop. I believe Dolly uses something different. It's just named a little bit different. And then Midjourney also uses Stable Diffusion. And so through Stable Diffusion, I put the prompt of bound by love and shared passion, a father and son forged an unbreakable bond through the shared joy of baseball. And I was given this image of a father hung, with his arm over his son in baseball clothes. But I didn't write this prompt. I had the idea of a father and son sitting together. And then I started formulating. I couldn't come up with all these descriptive words. But as I did form some of the descriptive words, and even entering these prompts back into a text generator or something like ChatGPT, I can then start kind of getting from a man with his arm over his son to a man with his arm over his son, soaking in, sharing his passion with his father. And as you kind of build that prompt, whether it's with your own creativity, with adjectives and descriptors, or even kind of like what I'm hinting at is using text generator to then begin spitting out a prompt that maybe I'm not able to write. Something like Grammarly. Grammarly, the writing editor, is another place that I can create prompts in, and I can kind of round off my prompts and make them more descriptive and have better builds to them.
Yeah. So we've put together a few resources for you. And again, you will have access to the slide, so you can click on these. But here is, I'm going to put in the chat here, for the first one, the prompt engineering handout. And I don't know, Tim, if you can maybe get to that, or I can share my screen. But the prompt engineering, let me see. No, actually, I was going to go to our document.
Gotcha.
But I don't.
I don't think it's in my tabs.
Okay, yeah. Let me go ahead and share mine, because mine's ready to. So can you stop sharing? Okay, there you go. Thank you. And then I will share. So this prompt engineering handout, you will have access to. We will continue to add and build to this, and obviously this is, we can't really be there are actually 10, 15, 20-week courses on just prompt engineering alone. So we're not going to be comprehensive by any means, but we would try to do our best to kind of give you some of the basic ideas and principles behind prompt engineering, because again, it is essential to the new tool, the new AI tools. The better you are at your prompts, the better results you'll get from these tools. And so we provide some best practices on like, things like being specific, providing context, breaking things down, using clear language. You can, things like experimenting, role playing. So these are kind of some basic principles. We also, underneath on starting page 2, some education related prompts, things that will be helpful to you and maybe to your students if you plan on integrating this in your class. Things like summarizing, creating multiple choice, creating case studies, applying knowledge. And it doesn't have to be applying, it could be at any levels of Bloom. It could be all the way up to synthesis and creation. And then also the additional prompt engineering resources that will exist, that exist elsewhere. But the idea is, this is a guide for you to get started when it comes to prompt engineering. In terms of, let me get back to, so here are some, we have too many things that keep scrolling. Okay, so you can probably hopefully see my screen here. So consider starting your own prompt library. I think there was a chat item about this. How do you record your prompt? I think Paul, you mentioned that. I don't know if that was what you meant by that. Do you want to explain your comment about keeping records of prompt, Paul?
Yes, let me unmute. On the side of Tim's slide that he shared were a list of the different kinds of prompts, and I could see that you could click them and it would expand. And I was wondering, how can I create a library like that where by kind of prompt, I can save all my prompts so I can go back and learn from them.
Oh, so you're talking about your history in the tool itself.
But or how can I create a library where I use because I have my students create Google. They have to use a hard copy to write the Google prompts they use for the research papers, so they don't go and redo the same Google prompts every time. I'd like to have them do that, but I'd like to do that as well for prompt engineering.
Yeah, I think it's up to you how you create that kind of library. I mean, like I said in my chat, every AI tool you use will have a history of all the prompts you've ever used if you don't delete it. I mean, it will always keep a history of things you've asked it. So that will always be there. But if you want to maybe consolidate some of the prompts that you use that are effective, then maybe you have to start a new Google Doc or something and just, maybe that's the best way, and you can share that among a group of your students or something. This is referring to point number 2 about like your go-to prompts. I mean, I actually have my own go-to prompts, which I keep track on my own Google Doc, and things I found useful, I just kind of keep that handy. So next time I'm trying to do a search on something, I just go back to my prompt and then I tweak it to whatever I need to do. And then that's sort of, but this is maybe one of the the takeaways for some of you is to just start your own little list of prompts, that go-to prompts, because that's something that will hopefully be you'll come back to over and over and over again. So and then the other points on this is about developing your prompt engineering skills. Some of the resources we provided actually will give you some of that practice on how to improve your prompt engineering skills, and how to do things. And you sometimes just seeing what others have done or what examples exist will help you improve on yours. So any other questions about prompt engineering before we move on to talking about the citations and attributions? And then I promise we'll have some chance for some time for you to actually practice some of this stuff.
Really quick question.
Yes.
If I have my students do a reading, and instead of writing a response, I have them create an image that explains and expresses what they read, for that day, which of the visual AI tools would you suggest that I have them use?
Oh gosh. I mean, if it's free, if you need it free, it will
Free,
probably
yeah.
be like a Dolly E, the Dolly, DALL-E, or the Clip Drop. And there are a number of, so, but yeah, I'd say go to, at this point, it really doesn't matter. It's just most of the tools, the free tools operate similarly.
Okay.
It's just, yeah, I don't know. Tim, do you have any go-to image?
Those two for sure. The Dolly, which is the same company under ChatGPT. It is their image generator. It's a little bit more user friendly. It's a single bar with images below as examples. Where Clip Drop, Clip Drop is the same, a single bar with images below. And I think Clip Drop has a lot more. You can do like 100 prompts a day when Dolly is about 10 or 15. So those are the differences I know off the top of my head.
But the 100, I just want to let those who are, before you get too excited, it is slow. If you don't pay for it, it is going to be slow and you're in the queue. So sometimes you can wait up to like minutes, like 10 minutes to get an image because there's so many people before you, because when it's free, you're not going to get priority. So the images I actually generated from this for this presentation slide, I have a paid version. I paid, I think, $10 for this for the month so that I could be ahead of the queue. But just warning, okay, you can generate 100 image, but it may take you some time because the free, like any of these free tools, it's based on availability of their computing power. And so if you are like using in the sort of the peak of their compute, like, I don't know, it peaks, depends on what part of the world's using that tool or when, kind of thing. Like sometimes I've tried using this at 8 o'clock at night and it takes forever because maybe the other half of the world's using it right now. And the North America is just, it's not working as well. So just caveat on that. So, all right, let's keep moving forward. And then that way we can kind of get to the practical exercises. So there was a question, I forget who was it that asked that. Was it BJ or Rick or something who asked of that citation? This is going to be the part where we're going to address some of those. So AI authorship attribution. So this comes from the OpenAI, which is the creator of ChatGPT. They provide this language. There are other language out there that you can use. This particular one basically says, the author generated this text in part with GPT-4, OpenAI, and it kind of explains the model is upon generating draft language, author reviewed, edited, revised language to make their own liking and takes ultimate responsibility for content of this publication. So this is something that if you use it in your report or in your paper, in an official capacity, it's important to have. I mean, again, this is just a suggested attribution. It really depends on the journal and the place that you're going to submit the official document, what guidelines they require. So just be aware of that. In terms of AI citations, there are a number of these out there. The current status is that these are still evolving on both the APA, the MLA, and the Chicago, and so on, all these major style organizations. They have not yet formalized or codified their citation. They do have some temporary kind of suggestions. I'll show you a couple of those, but these are kind of some of the sites you can go to kind of see how they go. So I just pulled out at APA and MLA because these are the two most popular citation styles. In terms of APA, you can see in the top, the in-text citation, what that looks like. You basically have to write out like, when prompted with, and then you write the prompt, and then you talk about what model you use, and then you say, what did it generate? What was sort of the result of that? And then you do that parenthetical citation of the tool and then the year. And then in the reference section, then you would then reference that, and then you put more information about the date used and so on. So that's kind of how the APA citation looks like in text and for reference. The citation for the APA citation for images, which we've been doing in this slide presentation, is noted here. So you have sort of like, you know, in a figure, usually an image in an APA kind of formatted paper, you need a figure, and then the title, and then the image, and then you have under that, the note is where you have sort of the information about the prompt and about where it came from and the link back to the actual tool. So that's an example of the APA citation for images. In terms of MLA, it's something similar, but you know, it's more, you know, more related to the MLA style in general. You can see sort of the in-text citation on top and also in the reference. The reference is a little bit more, I think, detailed in the MLA than the APA. And so, but you can see that's how that works there. And this is the MLA for the image, AI generated image. You know, very similar kind of structure. And then more examples of, I guess, the MLA in text and then the citation. So, all right, we are perfect timing, 11 o'clock. I couldn't plan it in better. All right, so maybe well, actually we are late because I was hoping we finished at 10:15 because we're supposed to be back by 11. But I know at this point, some of you are feeling overwhelmed and like, oh, I don't know, this is too much. And others are, okay, I'm following, I'm tracking with you. Let's get our hands, you know, into, start working on this. Regardless of where you're at, I think it's important. Maybe let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back at 11:05 or 11:06, 11:05-ish. It's good to always walk away, so let the mind reset, let the body reset, and then we will then dive into the practical thing. So let's come back at 11. I'll update the slide here, and I'll say we will, yeah. So in 5 minutes, come back, and then we'll give you instructions. Okay, you can turn off your camera, do a bio break, and then we'll be back here. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Hope that little break is good for your brain and your body. And so we will now transition to the practicum part of our session. This is hopefully where you get to apply some of the things that you've heard today, and then actually get to get hands-on on the activities. Let me give you some instructions first, and then what we will do is we will create breakout rooms. We will have about no more than 3 people per breakout rooms, and we'll probably do that randomly so that you get to meet different people every time. And in your breakout room, you will, as a group, this is where the faculty learning community practices come into play. Maybe talk amongst yourselves about, like, what do you want to do together, learn together. Whether some of you may be at a point where you're just like, I just need to learn how to log on to one of these tools. Now that could be a very it's okay if that's where you're at, is to say, how do I log on to one of these tools, or how do I find one of these tools? Or it could be something like, I know how to log on these tools. I want to practice prompt engineering. I want to improve that. And so maybe as a group, decide on what's the objective you want to achieve in terms of your prompt, and like, what do you want to do with the prompt, and then work together to see if you can generate better results by tweaking your prompt. And then another way you can use your time as a group is practice your APA MLA citation, which is can be exciting. We tell our students to do that all the time, but this is a new medium or new content that we may need to learn and also talk about in our class. So maybe it's a good time to start that. So we want to give you as much freedom as you can, as we can, in terms of how do you spend your time. Just the key is for you to to learn together. That's what these faculty learning community. So does that make sense? So I will. I think Tim is
a breakout room set up. So
okay, thank you. Let me see here. Chicago style. Yeah, I believe, Paul, there if you look on one of the if you just Google Chicago style AI generation, I believe I saw something or that was available. Let me see if I can find it real quick here. Okay, I'll put this in the prompt here. The scribber, I don't know how you pronounce that, scriber. They, I believe, has the Chicago style on there. So you can, that's one of the examples. Okay, so I think Tim has the room set up and then he's going to activate the room. And so what Tim and I will do is we will roam in the different rooms, and then that way we'll kind of get to see everybody, and we'll roam maybe in a forward order. So I'll start with, how many rooms are there, Tim?
We have 5 rooms. 2 of the rooms have 4 participants. 3 of the rooms have 3 participants.
Okay.
I just shared my screen with the activities, just kind of as a gentle prompt of what you guys can do. If you want to try to log into ChatGPT, or talk about prompts you've shared in the past, as well as just discuss, your experience with AI. So I'm going to go ahead and open all the rooms, and you should be prompted with to join one of the breakout rooms.
Yeah. So we'll give you about 10 to 15 minutes. We'll see how things go, and then we will then reconvene before we break. Okay, as a group. All right. So go ahead and click and enter your breakout room. Nancy, are you still there? Okay, so Nancy is not in attendance. It looks like. So maybe Tim, do you have a preference in what? Oh, there it is. Nancy, okay. Let's enter the waiting room. Oops. Hey, Nancy.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I think we assigned you to room 4.
Room 4. Okay.
Yeah, did you? There should be a little prompt for you to click.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thanks so much. There we go.
Yeah, click join on the right. Actually, no, actually, wonder why you see that. Is there a reason why we can't move Nancy to that? Nancy, do you see anything on your screen about joining? I don't know what's going on. I think she might have some connection issues.
Yeah, here I put her back in the waiting room. I'll see if I can work with her, but why don't you go ahead and move into the other ones?
I'll start with 1. Yeah, I'll start with
Okay.
1, and if you want to start, you start with 5 and go backwards. That way we don't run into each other. Okay. All right. We'll see you in a bit. All right, well, welcome back. I think there's still a few folks, yeah, from other rooms that are coming back.
Do we have a firewall preventing us from getting Chat GPT, Mike?
No, not that I know of.
Okay.
There shouldn't be any. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully yeah, like I said earlier, it is like drinking out of a fire hose for some of you because you're brand new, you haven't signed up for an account, and here we are talking about prompt engineering and image generation and all that, and it can be overwhelming. It's okay. It's only our first session, and the beauty of faculty learning community is that we will actually come back again as a community to learn together. I encourage you to, after today, we will share out, the links to slides, to the handout, to our Google site, and everything we talked about, you will have access to. So between now and the time we meet again in 2 weeks, which is going to be the 20th of this month, we encourage you to just invest a little bit of time. It doesn't have to be long. It could be like 10, 15 minutes a day, just trying a little thing every day, or set aside Friday morning or Friday afternoon and try to tinker with it. And so that by the time we meet again on the 20th, you will feel a little more comfortable and hopefully a little more confident in sort of your basic skills. When we come back on the 20th, we will actually shift gear a little bit. Today was really an orientation, introduction, overview. We try to blast you with sort of all the possibility, but starting our next session and the next 2 sessions after that, we will focus. So session 2 will be on teaching. A lot of it will be, we'll talk about the use cases, how to do your assignment makeover, creating assignments, grading schemes, and all sorts of things related to that. The session after that will be focused on research. Now, how do you use this for research? Now, we will cover some of the tools on annotation of literature and literature review, things like that. And then the session 4 will be on admin productivity. And then the last session is really just to regroup and create a plan and strategy for how to continue to grow professionally around this tool. All right, we are out of time. Tim and I mean, well, I shouldn't speak for Tim. I have some time, so I'll stick around, kind of like now, end of the class. You stick around, and if you have lingering questions you want to ask, we're happy to be around here and address those. But thank you for being here. Thank you. I know some of you have meetings to go, so thank you. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and happy prompting between now and then. So
thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. So again,
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Thank you.
So my